Ever feel like you're wandering through a desert? And no, I'm not talking about the sand dunes, kind of more like, when you're surrounded by challenges, can't find a solution, kind of thirsty for a win.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Well, that's exactly where we're headed in this deep dive, Exodus 16 and 17. The Israelites, fresh out of Egypt.
Freedom.
Right, you'd think they'd be ecstatic, but they find themselves in that exact spot, struggling to trust, finding things to complain about. Sound familiar?
It's incredibly relatable, isn't it? It's that whole, okay, but what about NW feeling?
So true. And we're going to see that tension play out as they encounter, well, the wonders of manna and the frustrations of a really basic need.
Thirst. Basic, but essential.
Exactly. So set the scene for us. The Red Sea crossing, history, freedom's in the air. But those celebratory snacks, yeah, probably gone. What's the vibe like as we head into Exodus 16?
Well, first, imagine the sheer scale of it all. Hundreds of thousands of people relying on whatever they could carry, suddenly in the wilderness.
Talk about a recipe for anxiety.
Even with a miraculous deliverance fresh in their minds.
No kidding. I bet they were ready to complain at the drop of a hat. So how does this whole manna situation come into play?
It's wild, honestly. They're in the middle of nowhere, no supermarkets, no farms.
Just miles and miles of nothing.
Exactly. And yet, every single morning, this bread-like substance appears on the ground, manna, described as sweet, flaky, like a delicate wafer.
Okay, free breakfast delivery in the desert, I'd take it. But knowing the Israelites, I'm sensing a but coming.
Sharp as always. Yes, there's a but. They complain, they grumble.
About free food?
You'd think they'd be grateful, right? But nope, they start talking about the good old days back in Egypt.
You mean when they were enslaved?
Hey, at least they had onions and garlic, right?
You've got to be kidding me. They'd rather be back in chains making bricks than trust God to provide in the wilderness.
It seems absurd, right? But here's where it gets interesting for us. Thousands of years later, haven't we all been there? Maybe not with literal manna, but how often do we find ourselves focusing on what's lacking instead of appreciating the blessings we do have?
Wow, yeah. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day. We forget about the roof over our heads, the food on our tables, the people who love us.
Exactly, and that's what the Israelites were wrestling with. It wasn't just about filling their stomachs. It was about learning to trust in God's daily provision, even when it came in ways they didn't expect. And isn't that something we still struggle with?
Every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So the manna shows us this deep human struggle to trust, this tendency to, I don't know, maybe focus on the lack instead of the abundance. But their thirst, that feels a little more justified, don't you think? I mean, we all need water to survive.
Oh, yeah. Thirst hits different. It's primal, And in Exodus 17, you can just feel that desperation rising.
Makes the manna complaint seem a little petty, huh?
Yeah. Well, this wasn't just a mild inconvenience. They're in the desert. The sun's beating down. Dehydration is no joke.
Especially for a massive group like that.
Their patience was wearing thin. Thinner than, well,
A sheet of manna.
Exactly. And things escalate pretty quickly.
So how does a little thirst turn into this, what did you call it, a showdown?
A showdown is right. Picture this. The Israelites gathered together, desperate for water, and who did they turn on?
Each other.
Moses, their leader, the guy who literally just parted a sea for them.
Wow. Talk about ungrateful.
It gets worse. They're ready to stone him.
Stone him. Seriously. I mean, I get being thirsty, but...
It's like they completely forgot about the Red Sea, the manna, everything.
Right. All those times God came through for them. It's like they're stuck in survival mode. Can't see past their immediate need.
And that's the point, right? Our modern deserts might not be literal deserts, but how often do our fears, those immediate needs, how often do they cloud our vision, our ability to trust?
It's easy to lose sight of the big picture when you're, well, dying of thirst.
Exactly. And in that moment, all that pressure, Moses cries out to God.
What does he say?
It's raw, just a desperate, what do I do?
I feel that. So, what happens? God sends a torrential downpour, maybe airlifts in some gallon jugs of water.
No, where's the fun in that? This is God, remember? He's a little more creative.
Okay, then what?
He tells Moses to strike a rock.
A rock.
A specific rock at a place called Horeb.
Not exactly the most obvious solution to a water shortage.
Nope. And that's the point.
You think there's something more to it?
Yeah.
Like symbolic, maybe?
Absolutely. It's God's provision, but not how anyone would expect. He could have just sent rain, but he chose this rock.
Okay, so Moses strikes the rock. Does water actually come out?
It doesn't just come out, it gushes out. Enough for everyone, even their animals.
Wow. So it wasn't about the rock at all, was it?
No, it was about trusting that even when things seem impossible, God can provide, often in the most unexpected ways.
And I'm guessing that's a lesson we need to hear even today, huh?
Every single day.
This is powerful stuff. So to be clear, you're saying that when we hit those dry spells in our own lives, those moments where we're just parched for a breakthrough,
Those are our Horeb moments.
and instead of focusing on the problem, on what feels impossible,
We need to remember the rock.
trust that God can provide.
Hmm.
And maybe not by striking a literal rock, but by,
Yeah.
what? Opening doors, revealing opportunities.
Exactly. An unexpected resource, a sudden burst of inspiration. It might not look how you expect, but it'll be there.
That's actually really encouraging. But just when it seemed like things were calming down, didn't you say something about a new challenge popping up? Please tell me it's not locusts again.
No locust this time, but yeah, just when you think, okay, things are calming down, a new threat pops up.
So no rest for the weary, huh?
Something like that. It reminds me, life's rarely a straight shot to the finish line. You clear one hurdle, catch your breath, and bam, something else comes along.
And in this case, bam is the Amalekites, right?
Yeah.
Okay, paint me a picture. Who are these guys? Like a ragtag band of desert bandits? Or something more organized?
Think more like nomadic raiders. Opportunistic. They had this knack for showing up at the worst possible moment.
Well, that's just rude.
Right, and they saw the Israelites vulnerable, exhausted from their journey as easy targets.
Oh, I get it. Adding insult to injury. I mean, these people just escaped slavery, crossed a sea on dry land, survived on manna, found water in a rock.
And now desert bullies.
Seriously, it's like one thing after another. But I guess that's the human experience, right? This constant cycle of tests.
It forces us to dig deep, rely on something bigger than ourselves.
Okay, so how do they respond? If I'd just been through all that, honestly, I'd probably just camp out by that miraculous rock and hope for the best.
Can you blame them? But this time, they fight back.
About time. So they take on these Amalekites. How'd that go?
Moses sends Joshua to lead the army. But there's a twist.
Oh, twist. Don't leave me hanging.
Up on a hilltop, Moses himself is standing, holding the staff of God high in the air.
Okay, wait. We're not talking about some kind of inspirational pep talk from afar, are we? What's holding a staff got to do with fighting a battle?
Here's the thing. As long as Moses keeps his arms raised, the Israelites have the upper hand. But the second his arms drop...
Let me guess. The Amalekites start winning.
Exactly.
Wow, talk about a power pose. So basically, the fate of this entire battle is resting on Moses's stamina. My arms are getting tired just thinking about it.
Right. And sure enough, Moses gets tired, exhausted.
Oh, what happens? It's all over.
This is where we see the power of community. Aaron and Hur, two of Moses's companions, they see what's happening.
Yeah.
And they don't question it. They don't criticize.
They just jump in to help.
Right.
Love those guys. Okay, so what do? Prop him up with some pillows?
They literally hold his arms up for him.
No way.
Yep. They share the burden so the Israelites can win the victory.
That's wow. Just wow. I mean, it makes you think even the strongest among us need support,
Yeah.
especially in the middle of a battle. It makes you think about your own life.
Yeah.
Who are the people who've been your Aaron and Hur?
Not the ones who cheer you on, hold you up when you're ready to give up.
Exactly.
Ooh.
Those friends, family, mentors. But didn't you say that afterwards Moses builds an altar? There's more to the story, right?
There's always more. He builds this altar to commemorate the victory, a physical reminder. But it's the name he gives it that really gets me.
Okay, hit me with it. What do you call it?
Jehovah-Nissi.
Jehovah-Nissi. I got to admit, I don't speak fluent ancient Hebrew. What's it mean?
The Lord is my banner. Think of a banner, a flag waving in the wind. It's a symbol of identity, a rallying point for an army.
Okay, I'm seeing it. So it's like Moses is saying, God is my protector, my defender, my source of strength, not just in this one battle, but in everything.
Exactly. It's bigger than just words. It's this mindset shift. You walk through the world knowing you're not defined by your battles, but by whose banner you're carrying.
I like that. So we connect that to our own lives, our own deserts, our own Amalekites, those challenges. It's a choice, isn't it? Let those things define us or
raise a different banner.
the banner of Jehovah-Nissi.
Knowing that we're not alone in the fight.
This has been incredible. I mean, from grumbling about manna to a rock that gushes water to the power of literally holding each other up. It's amazing how much these stories still resonate today, thousands of years later.
It shows you how deeply connected we are to those who came before us, right?
Totally. So as you go about your day today, remember Jehovah-Nissi. What banner are you raising in those tough moments? Where do you need to trust that God will provide, even when it seems impossible?
And who are the Aarons and Hurs in your life?
The ones who help you hold up your arms no matter what. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never forget. Even in the middle of your desert, you're not alone.